Alright everybody, we have a really fun video today, and yes, it is about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This movie has become one of the most fun movies to speculate about, theorize, and dive into the plot leaks that we have been hearing non-stop. Mostly, however, these plot leaks have had to do with cameos. Patrick Stewart, who we all believe and are 99.999% sure we saw during the last trailer, even though he claims he was at home getting ready to watch football.
I was just at home waiting to watch football, so how could it possibly have been me? So we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
But today we actually have an idea about what could we expect to come from the ending of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, out of everything we've heard about this movie, and yes, we've heard a lot of how it might open, what it's going to deal with, what the multiverse is going to show us, and a lot of the cameos, we don't actually know what to expect for an ending to this film. That's actually been kept under lock and key rather well. But today, there is a theory going around that has sparked a ton of fans' interest. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk about all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I, of course, am your host, Chris, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the awesome movie news we have coming up. Huge releases, guys. Uncharted just came out. The Batman's coming out around the corner. Multiverse of Madness, huge one that we are all very excited for. So let me know what you think about these films down below and become an active member of the community. Now, let's talk about Wanda. Wanda is an extremely important character moving into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There is a comic series that a lot of us think there should be or could be a ton of references to in this movie, and that is the House of M. Now, this is a very powerful and relatively well-known comic book run, and it has to do with the Scarlet Witch going absolutely insane, and she actually gathers a ton of power and uses it for not necessarily good purposes. I'll walk you through a little bit more details of the House of M if you aren't familiar, but the idea is that we're going to see a retconned, reversed version of the House of M that will ultimately lead to the X-Men, or rather mutants, being introduced to the MCU. But we're going to get to that in just a second. Let's continue talking about Wanda. If you've watched WandaVision, and if you haven't, you definitely should, you know Wanda's in a little bit of an in-between place right now. And by in-between, by this limbo, she's got a ton of power. We last saw her studying very deeply the Darkhold in astro form while cooking and doing different things inside of a cabin. She's definitely learning tons of scary tricks as she has become the Scarlet Witch, a Nexus being who possesses chaos magic and she shouldn't exist. She's too powerful. Agatha Harkness freaked out at the very idea of her learning how to harness her own powers, and she even said to her, "You don't know what you've done," and that was simply by her recognizing her own power. So Wanda, who Kevin Feige said during Endgame was the most powerful Avenger and the most powerful character in the MCU, has now gained even more power, knowledge, and abilities and fully become the Scarlet Witch. Kevin Feige went on again, and this is the president of Marvel Studios, to say that Wanda's importance in Multiverse of Madness cannot actually be defined. She's not going to be a little side character or a supporting character. She very well may be the most important character in this film. Remember, Doctor Strange went to Wanda to ask for help. She assumed he came to talk about Westview and all the crazy stuff she's been doing and probably that she's been learning about the Darkhold, and he said, "No, I'm here to ask your help. I need to go into the multiverse and figure some stuff out." Now, that's pretty serious if Doctor Strange, being the advanced, capable sorcerer that he is, who's had many more years of learning his abilities and powers than Wanda, has come to Wanda to ask for her help. She's very capable and she's very powerful. Now, let's get to the idea of what we're expecting to come at the very end. And this will, of course, be at the hands of Wanda. There is a plot leak, and this is one that a lot of very big YouTubers and inside scoopers seem to believe is accurate, and I myself also do believe it. I think we got a glimpse of it in the trailer, and that is that Wanda at some point is going to snap while they're in this Illuminati, this Multiversal Council's palace, this location that we've seen, and she's going to attack and possibly kill or defeat everybody on this multiversal council. We don't know all of the members of who's going to be on this council, but the Illuminati in the comics is made up of Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Professor X, Black Bolt, and Namor in the comics. So a pretty impressive and powerful group, and if they've charged themselves to be in charge of the multiverse and protecting the multiverse, the presumption is they're pretty powerful beings. And the presumption is that Wanda is going to defeat them all because she wants her kids, and we learn this during WandaVision. She will stop at nothing to create her perfect reality. Now in WandaVision, it seems as though she did it all on accident. She didn't have control over it, and she was just creating a perfect reality where Vision and these kids of hers were there, and everybody was living in peace and harmony, and it happened through sitcoms that she watched when she was a little girl with her family before they were all killed by Stark Tech bombs. Now, this is where we start connecting to the comic story, The House of M. Now, The House of M actually starts off with Wanda creating this illusionary world where she has her kids, she has Vision, a lot of her different family members who were killed are around her, and she's able to have a perfect world. The issue is, it's not real, and much like with Westview, as we saw in WandaVision, she's creating it around her, and it is affecting people, and she is so powerful that her mind has the ability to bend reality at will. So the X-Men and the Avengers talk amongst themselves, and they decide that they need to kill Wanda to stop her from having these episodes where her mind snaps and reality snaps with it. Quicksilver goes to Magneto and says they're going to kill her, and Magneto says maybe they should. And keep in mind, in this comic run, she's actually the daughter of Magneto. So they decide to go and kill her, but before they can find her, there's a big huge white flash, and everything has changed. Some of the heroes, namely Wolverine, realize that everything have changed eventually, and that they're all living in this dream world, in this dream scenario. He eventually convinces a few of the Avengers and the X-Men that this is wrong, and he remembers what happens because his mind had been washed so many times, much like his body, his mind was able to heal itself. So he remembers that the Scarlet Witch caused all of this to happen. Now in this reality they're living in, mutants and heroes are celebrities, and Magneto is actually the lord of all of them. So they assume that Magneto went behind their backs, spoke with Wanda, and created this insane world where one, she gets to survive, she gets to have her kids, Magneto gets to be ruler of everything, and mutants and superheroes are on top of the food chain, and humans survive underneath them. Unlike what was happening in the current world where humans were in charge and mutants were freaks who tried to hide and blend in, which Magneto never really likes in any comic book run. So with this knowledge, they break into a huge gala that Magneto is having and search for Wanda to bring an end of all of this insanity. And they finally make their way to Wanda's tower, where she's there playing with her kids, who it's very well noted she would do anything to protect. We find out here it wasn't actually Magneto who set this up, but it was Quicksilver, who, when he ran to his father originally and said they're going to kill her, and Magneto said maybe they should, ran off, told Wanda everything that was going to happen, and they created this scheme where everybody got their wish and lived in this perfect reality so that they would leave the two of them alone. They've always been alone, and it has always been the two of them. So he was trying to protect his sister. But this information makes its way over to Magneto, who, even though he is Lord and King and living his dream life in this reality created by the Scarlet Witch, he gets very mad at Quicksilver and even yells, "What have you done in my name, boy?" Because everybody is blaming Magneto that this crazy world was created by the Scarlet Witch. He brings Quicksilver basically to death, and the Scarlet Witch reacts insanely and looks at her father and says, "You think we're so great," referring to mutants, and that we're perfect and we're these superior beings, but look at us, father, we're freaks. And then says this famous line, no more mutants. And then the world changes again, and all of the mutants are gone. And they exist in yet another reality created by Wanda, where mutants do not exist. Now you can see a lot of similarities from this as to what happened in WandaVision, with the crazy reality bending and the out of control mind snaps that caused harm to the people around her, and of course the desire to have a normal life with her husband Vision and her kids. All of this was taken away from her, but she was given the power of the Darkhold, and it is the belief of a lot of fans that we will be seeing this storyline with the reverse effect, that come the end, Wanda might think humans think they're so special, that their lives are so precious. Well, we need more mutants. That includes her kids, and that will eventually include the characters from the X-Men. And you have to also keep in mind, Wanda has been learning. Wanda has been reading the Darkhold. She's been traveling the multiverse. She knows about mutants like Professor X and others. She's visited them. She's interacted with them. She's watched and observed them. So she knows that there are mutants out there and that they're capable of wonderful things. And the only reason Wanda's not able to have kids is because of these normal humans who are affected by her changing reality. Well, it's possible that at the very end, consumed by the darkness of the Darkhold, she does turn and does say, "Mutants, more mutants. We need more special people." And that is how the mutants are introduced to the main MCU timeline, by the Scarlet Witch eventually having another brain mental snap and not realizing everything that her power is capable of. This would be a very interesting way to bring the mutants to the MCU. We have to wait for it to happen somehow. There has to be an introduction of the mutants so we can get to the X-Men and all of these characters that we're very excited to have now in the MCU. And I personally would think it's very lazy to just say, oh, we'll bring them in through a Doctor Strange portal and yeah, they're mutants now. Or to say, yeah, there have always been mutants hiding in the background. There needs to be some type of event, some type of happening or awakening that will start the mutant gene, the X gene in humans to form. Now, whether that's from the Scarlet Witch having an absolute insane freak attack and creating this gene in humans because of an explosion of her cosmic power, of her chaos magic, or by some other means, that's the best way to bring mutants into the MCU, by some type of awakening and some type of happening that will spark the gene to spread. I'm curious what it is, and I do think that this is a very, very cool theory, and I personally would be very okay with seeing it happening. The comic book, The House of M, is a very insane comic book, a very intense comic book, but we were on the path in the very beginning of WandaVision to almost having that idea, and a lot of people, while we were watching WandaVision, were saying, wow, this is the House of M. We even saw during the Doctor Strange trailer very similar artwork from what we get in the House of M, and that is this piece here where Doctor Strange's face is kind of falling apart like a bunch of cubes or a puzzle piece. This is very similar artwork to what we get in the House of M, and people think that this is a hint that we should be expecting some type of House of N storyline. Whether it is a different reverse version where the mutants are introduced, or Wanda loses everything and absolutely goes insane. I cannot wait to see how it's pulled off, and this for sure would be a very, very powerful way to tell us exactly what's going on in the MCU at the moment, and to even introduce the mutants. I do appreciate that that was a lot to follow, but I hope I was able to explain it very clearly to you. I tried to run through the comic book as quickly as I could for those of you who aren't familiar with the House of M storyline. But let me know, did that make sense? And is it something you would be alright seeing happening in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to eventually lead to the introduction of mutants and eventually the X-Men in the MCU? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, thank you to everybody who watched till the very end of the video. If you made it to the very end, let me know in the comment section. I will make sure to give you a little bit of recognition for that. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys all in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.